Happy Friday to everybody. How's everybody doing? Thanks for being patient. We're having some technical difficulties with the means green screen, so that's why we were taking a little bit. Not his fault, just technology. Uh, Hope everybody's having a good Friday. I know I'm late. Thank you, 49er Throwback. Yeah, we had some technical difficulties, but we are here. I saw a lot of people saying hi before, so I just want to say hi to everybody that came through that might not be in here anymore. Thank you so much. Um, Whew, man, this is it's been a long 2 weeks waiting for some football. I mean, but it's not all good news going into this Sunday. Of course, everybody knows the topic of discussion that we're probably going to start the show off with. I guess I'll just ask straight out the gate since I've already gave my piece because I did a little bit of a live reaction or a hour later reaction to the Verrett news. What was your initial feeling on Verrett being done for the year after the Achilles?
I was devastated. I mean, when you have a guy like Jason Verrett, who we were looking forward to having him back after the bye, potentially, he could start this week against the Chargers or have, get play against the Chargers this week. And then for him to tear his Achilles, I mean, you had to feel bad for him. And I mean, if you don't feel bad for him, I don't know, what's going on as a person. Like, if you don't feel bad for a guy who's had numerous injuries, who's torn his ACL 2 times, torn his Achilles, I mean, Jason Verrett just can't catch a break, and
Nope.
I honestly feel so bad for him. Prayers up to him. Hope he has a speedy and healthy recovery. I don't know his future with the Niners. I doubt that he'll be back on the team. I don't even know if he'll be playing football ever again. He might retire, but definitely got to feel for Jason Verrett, and I honestly felt really bad for him, and was definitely surprised when I saw that news.
Yeah, like I saw it and I thought that somebody was joking, because people are weird on social media. People can do weird stuff. And I waited like 2 minutes, went back, and it was literally like all the way down the timeline on Twitter. Oh my God, this can't be serious. Oh my God, devastated, gutted. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. Like, he would have been the perfect addition to a defense that's, missing an outside corner on one side. And, since Mosley's went down, our defense has definitely taken a step back. And the person in me felt bad first, and then the football part kind of came after. It's unfortunate that there's people out there who sat there and sent this man freaking hate and tweeted hate. You saw Debo saying stuff about it. Like, dude, he can't help it. It's literally not his fault. Some people's genetics just aren't made for athletics. That's just how it works sometimes. Really super talented guy. I was listening to John Lynch, an interview from this morning. Elite level corner. His body has never cooperated with him. So it's one of those things where you worry about him from a mental health standpoint more than you care about football, because anybody like an athlete who puts that much time into their craft and getting ready for every season and doing the mental work, the physical work, all the conditioning that they have to do just to have it taken away from them again. You worry about people. You worry if they're safe, if they're going to, harm, not, you know what I mean? You know what I'm trying to say. I'm not trying to get too deep into it, but hopefully he's okay. Hopefully he's got a good support system around him. I don't know if you guys heard in the chat, and Mean, I don't know if you heard either. They almost stopped practice. Practice came to a dead stop. There was a lot of emotional people. I heard Trent Williams got really emotional talking about it, and Trent's like a beast. So if Trent's affected, us fans are going to be affected too. So it was really sad to hear. I'm gutted for the guy. But as a football player, as a guy on this team, he would have been a magnificent addition if he came back at any point this season.
Yep.
Did you have you? It's weird. I mean, because it's like he hasn't played this year, so we technically don't miss him. But at the same time, he's a huge loss, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it definitely makes sense. I mean, we were looking forward to potentially seeing him this upcoming week, and hopefully the Niners would slowly bring him back, and he would get more reps and more snaps and more playing time. And now he's out for the whole year. And we were talking about a couple of weeks ago when you're looking at that Emmanuel Mosley injury,
Yeah.
and you were like, you know what, Emmanuel Mosley goes down, but there's no need to worry because Jason Verrett will come back potentially after the bye week. We'll have him, against the Chargers, and now he's out for the whole entire year. And I mean, like I kind of said, like you have to feel bad for Jason Verrett. It kind of reminds me a little bit of Klay Thompson. Klay Thompson tore his ACL, I think, or Achilles in the finals, ready to come back next year, and then he gets hurt again, and then he has to go through rehab, the whole rehab process again, and everything. I mean, it's brutal, and you really have to have a strong mindset, either if you're an athlete or just a person in general. When you have back to back major injuries where you can't walk or you can't move around or you can't do regular day to day stuff at 100%. So you definitely got to have a strong mentality. I definitely love what Jason Verrett put out, like some type of Instagram story of how like I won't let this put me down. I have a strong mentality. I know what I have to do. So definitely like that from Jason Verrett. But you have to feel bad for Jason Verrett. And now this cornerback issue of now with Mosey going down. So far, it hasn't been an issue. But
Right.
when you play better teams, can this cornerback group hold up, and can they play well and do what they're supposed to? That's going to be the question mark as the season progresses, is when they play better teams with better quarterbacks and better receivers. Charvarius Ward I'm not as worried about, but will guys like Samuel Womack or Diamond Lenore, will they be able to do their job? So that's going to be a question mark looking further down the line in the season, where with Verrett going down, you don't have him as an option to put him in the game against a DeAndre Hopkins, for example, like when you go to Mexico. Now you don't have that option. So we'll see. We'll see. This it obviously sucks for him. It obviously sucks. For Jason Verrett, definitely do feel bad for him. But I'm definitely curious to see how this impacts the 49ers and their cornerback room and their secondary moving forward.
Just want to say hi to the chat real quick. Everybody that's been in here or is gone or was in here earlier. We got Rico O'Neill. He says 49er. I think he probably meant to say 49ers. Thank you for coming in earlier because I saw your comment last night. So thank you. We got 49ers throwback in here, always supporting my streams, supporting other streams, supporting people on Twitter. Awesome. Raphael562. What else can I say? OG from way back. Thank you so much. Same thing, Damian Lee, OG follower from way back. Thank you as usual. You guys are always in here supporting. Like anytime I stream, or even when I used to just make little sound videos, you guys have always been around. Randy Daytona, if you've been in the stream, I don't recognize you, but if you haven't, welcome. Bay Area baller, I love you, dude. You're awesome. Thanks for popping in. If you're not in here anymore, thanks for coming in anyways. Let's see who else we got here. Of course, we got Brian Culp. What would a stream be without Brian Culp? He's in everybody's stream. He's active on YouTube now, so happy to see that for sure. David McNew. I think I already said your name, but if I didn't, thanks for coming through as usual. Frank Tom Ocean, where are you? What's going on, man? Another OG supporter. Generation Retro, what's going on? Thank you for coming through. And Chili says, I hope JV going down is a motivating factor in the beginning. I hope it lasts through the whole game. Yeah, I hope it lasts through the whole season. But Chili, thanks for coming through. Real quick to the people that are in the stream, this is the last time you will see the bedroom backdrop here, I think. I'm changing areas here, so next time you see it, it might be like kind of basement-y looking with some signs and stuff. So just thought I'd share that. I don't know. That has nothing to do with the stream, but figure we take the topic off of JV for a sec. One thing, and that we'll get back to some of the injury returns. One thing I think the 49ers need to do in this game, I mean, they have to come out fast. I know sometimes people think bye weeks are good for teams, and sometimes people think that bye weeks are detrimental to momentum. How do you feel about that situation?
Bye weeks are a good thing and a bad thing, right? And not even just in the regular season, but you look at even in the playoffs, for example, right? A bye week can be great. You get your players back. You might have some key guys that are on their injury report or that are hurt or that need an extra week to rest. And you might get certain key players back, like the Niners, right? You get Debo back. You get, Armstead. He got hurt again, I think, but you get some of your guys back, like Elijah Mitchell, Aziz, Dre Greenlaw. So you get some of your players back when you have a bye week. But at the same time, the bye week can also hurt you, because then you could come out slow that next week, and you're off to a slow start, and that really could hurt you in the game. So Bye weeks are obviously have their pros and cons, just with a lot of things in life. They have their pros and cons, but the Niners do really have to get off to a fast start in this game. I mean, if you come out slow and the Chargers offense is putting up points, and they really haven't had great weeks the last couple of weeks. Keenan Allen and Mike Williams are out, so that definitely helps the 49ers, especially now with Brett and his, injury news. That definitely helps the Niners. But when you have a guy like Justin Herbert on the other side, I mean, Justin Herbert, even with the lack of, weapons, he could still elevate his play, and he could still put up a 30 burger on you. He could still put up points offensively, and that offense still has Austin Eckler, and that offense still has a pretty darn solid offensive line.
Yep.
So that offense, do not sleep on that offense. I get it; they don't have Keenan Williams or Keenan Allen and Mike Williams, but they can still do some damage offensively and put up a good amount of points. So offensively, you got to come out fast, get into a rhythm early, get CMC involved. Hopefully, we see another big game from him. So far, I'm pretty happy with the CMC experiment. It's still obviously a little bit too early, but you got to get off to a fast start offensively, because if the Chargers get up on you early, it might be hard to come back from that deficit if you can't put up points. So offensively, get off to a fast start, run the football effectively. Jimmy Garoppolo. That's the thing, man. Jimmy Garoppolo, all we need from you is to be a good game manager. Do your job, do what you're asked to do. Don't make crucial mistakes. Don't put the ball in harm's way. Make smart decisions. If the play isn't there, throw it out of bounds. Just do what you have to do. Be a good game manager. And if we can do that, and if Jimmy Garoppolo can do that, I mean, that's obviously great. And you look at I think there's like a stat where when Jimmy Garoppolo and the run game gets going and Jimmy Garoppolo throws the ball only like 20-25 times a game, the Niners have a winning record in those games. When the Niners defense is struggling and they're playing from down and Jimmy Garoppolo has passed the ball 45 times in a game, the Niners don't have a winning record in those games. So offensively, you have to get off to a fast start. And if we can do that, and defensively, obviously getting some of your players back, such as Dre Greenlaw and Aziz, that definitely helps. So definitely going to be an interesting matchup. But offensively, you definitely have to get off to a fast start if I'm the 49ers.
This season with the 49ers has been super inconsistent and unpredictable. And a lot of us got confident with that win before the bye, including myself and the players too. I mean, you could see it in body language, how people have been acting, when you see them in press conferences or, hanging out during Halloween and all that stuff. But fact of the matter is that all that goes away once we hit the field Sunday night. And momentum is a true thing in sports. I don't think people realize in sports, momentum is everything. You could have it, and all of a sudden a player goes down that gets hurt, and then it can completely change the complexion of a game where you guys are just not mentally there. You check out, and then all of a sudden a team makes a roaring comeback and you end up losing. And the Niners haven't proven to us that they can play consistent ball even in one game. Like every game is like a test of patience to watch, because you see them moving the ball at will and putting up some touchdowns, and then they'll go through a spell where they can't move the ball past midfield, and Jimmy Garoppolo is inaccurate and erratic, and guys are dropping balls and penalties are being committed. So it's like, which 49er team are we going to have coming out of the bye? Are we going to have the one that left SoFi, putting the boots to the Rams for the second time? Or are we going to get the Chicago Bears or Atlanta Falcons team? It's a big question, and as much excitement I think, and a lot of us fans do have, there's some trepidation also with that, because you just, like the Slim Shady song says, with the real Slim Shady, please stand up. Well, the real 49ers, please stand up. Who are you? What team are we? If we see two sides of a team on Sunday, maybe that's who the 49ers they are. Maybe they're just super bipolar, and maybe that's what's going to prevent them from winning a championship this year. So who knows? We still have 9 games to go. A lot can happen, either positive or negative. So it's awesome. We still got a lot of football left, which is exciting. But at the same time, this team has been super bipolar. And sorry if that offends anybody, but I mean, I deal with mental health, so I hope it doesn't. But they are. They can be. The Niners are. I don't know. You could say they're schizophrenic too. They have multiple personalities. They have one game, like I said, one half they look like they're the worst team in the NFL, and the second half they look like world beaters. So who knows? Real quick, Raphael 566. So what happened to the blue lights? I just decided I asked the old speaker here what color tell it what color I want, and it changes the background. I used the blue last night because it was like somber, so I had the blue behind me. But when we do Niners time, it's got to be red. Bay Area Baller says 49ers need to tackle well. Herbert has been throwing a lot of quick passes because the O-line is good. Yeah, heard that on the radio today that, their passing attack is very short, quick. So the Niners do need to be on their game as far as tackling.
And another thing to point out is I wish this was the Bosa game because obviously Joey Bosa plays for the Chargers, but he's not able to go. I think against the Niners, but both Bosa brothers teams are going up against each other. Obviously, Nick Bosa, our beloved pass rusher, and then obviously Joey Bosa and his team in the Chargers. So that's definitely be a fun matchup for obviously the Bosa and the Bosa family. I know, but I was watching 95.7 the game earlier, and his parent and his dad, John, went on 95.7 the game. He was talking about the game. He's like, I'm gonna wear neutral. I'm not gonna pick a team or whatever. I'm gonna be neutral the whole game. But that's also another thing to point out that both Bosa brothers teams are going up against each other.
Yep. David McNew says the Chargers have the worst run defense in the league. We have CMC and Mitchell. Yeah, I know, David, that I was watching or I was listening to might have been Greg Papa being interviewed on Murph and Mac this morning on KNBR, but he made a reference that, Chargers are going to try to do what they usually do is load the box and have Jimmy Garoppolo beat them. And if Jimmy plays the way he did against the Rams, then that'll work in the Niners' favor. So I think all of this outcome, especially if they know that they have to stop the run because that's something we do well and they have a problem with it, that means it's onus on the 49ers for the passing game to be on top of it, which means we need to have good Jimmy. We can't have bad Jimmy. We have to have Jimmy second half Rams Jimmy, not I don't know, whatever bad Jimmy we've had this year. I can't think of one off the top of my head. Let's see here. I think the question to you, and we're going to kind of kick it back to the defense and the injuries, and then we'll talk about some of the players that are coming back. Can the Niners mentally overcome the injury to Verrett, or do you think they might be affected?
I mean, obviously they might be affected, but I think you have to overcome the injury to Verrett, right? Players go down in the league. We obviously know Trey Lance went down earlier this year. Other teams have their star players get hurt, key guys getting hurt. And obviously it has an effect on the players because they're your brother. You go to war with them, 17 weeks, 18 plus weeks. You go to training camp with them, practices with them. You spend a lot of time with them during the season. So obviously, a lot of these guys are like brothers, and they have a lot of respect for each other. They have really good friendships, um, that'll last a lifetime. So obviously, when you lose a guy like Jason Verrett, who's been on the team, who's been constantly dealing with injuries, it obviously will have a toll on some of the players. But you have to overcome that. You really have to, as a football team, you have to overcome that. And if I'm the Niners, I would use that as motivation. I mean, you lose a guy like Verrett, now that just means, you know, other guys on the team have to step up and we have to be better as a football team now that we don't have a guy like Jason Verrett who potentially could have made his return. So if I'm the Niners, obviously the loss of Verrett will obviously hurt and obviously it has an impact on these players, but we still got to go out and execute. We still got to go out and win football games. And if I'm the Niners, I use Verrett's injury as motivation that, hey, we lost a guy, another key guy, and NFL teams know that now. NFL teams right now they don't have Verrett, and that just means we have to step up more. We have to do better. Players have to step up. Guys have to step up. We have a bigger target on our back, and now we have to show out and do better and execute better and just be overall better. So if I'm the Niners, I really have to be better. And obviously the loss of Verrett, it hurts. It obviously is a big loss, but you have to overcome that in order to win football games.
Let's hope that they can. Like I said, the reports from practice were of a team that was definitely distracted and had a lot of time getting it together, but they decided to finish practice, and so hopefully they can band together. I know it sounds cliche, like for their fallen quote unquote soldier, I hate to compare football to the military, but that's what a lot of people seem to do. So you gotta pull your bootstraps up and be there for the guy that's down. I'm gonna switch over to injuries here. Some of the returns that we're getting here. Uh, Debo Samuel, Juwan Jennings, Kyle Juszczyk, Elijah Mitchell, Colton McKivitz, which I think is a key. If a lot of us want McGlinchey out of there. So, Dre Greenlaw, Aziz Al Shaair, and Jordan Willis. So we lose Samson Ebukam, who's going to be out, and we already don't have. We already don't have
Verrett, Armstead.
Verrett, Armstead, and Kinlaw. So, but we get it's funny. I was if you play the game, the NBA game, 2K23 or 22, and you run as the Warriors, they talk about how the Warriors, when they were dealing with injuries the last couple of years, it's like every time they got somebody back, they lost somebody, and that's pretty much what the 49ers have been as well. Who are you most excited to see back? And then I'll let you know who I'm excited to see of the players that I listed.
Can I go offense and defense?
You can do whatever you want, man.
Sure, I'll go offensively. Obviously, Elijah Mitchell. I mean, I don't know how much he'll get involved in the game, how many carries he'll get. Obviously, I think CMC is probably the primary back, but I want to see Elijah Mitchell in the game. He obviously got hurt early on in the season. We had high expectations coming into the year. We'll see what he could do. We'll see how many carries he'll get. We'll see how involved he is with this offense, coming back from the injury. And then defensively, I would go Aziz. I mean, Aziz was a stud for us last year.
Yeah.
And arguably at times last year, nearing the end of the season, he was better than Fred Warner last year in certain parts of the season. That game in Seattle, he stepped up when Fred Warner couldn't go. Like, Aziz had himself a phenomenal year last year. So he obviously got hurt also early on in the season. So to get him back, I mean, that's huge for the Niners. And obviously we know Dre Greenlaw's coming back. You still don't have Armstead. You still don't have Javon Kinlaw. But to get those linebackers back, I mean, it's great. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what Aziz can do, because I had high expectations coming in for him, coming into the season for him. And he had a great year, great campaign last year. So we'll see what he can do coming off the injury. So definitely excited to see Aziz back, because he's a beast for us when he's able to go.
For me to have both Greenlaw and Aziz back because of the deficiencies on the defensive line, that makes me really happy on defense, because together when healthy, they're probably the best three linebackers as a trio in the National Football League. Others will disagree, but I'm just saying they're really good together.
They are. They definitely
offensively are. Debo. I mean, Debo on the field at the same time as Christian McCaffrey will be interesting, to say the least. Now, again, the conversation always drifts back to Jimmy and to Shanahan. If they can somehow just be efficient, and Jimmy just uses his playmakers as a point guard uses the players around him to facilitate, we'll have a fantastic game. To me, the 49ers are front runners. They play better with the lead. They're not a comeback from behind team, because they just don't have the quarterback to do it.
What's the record? 3-29, or going into the fourth quarter down by 3 or something?
Yeah, it's really bad. So the Niners, they fall behind a good amount in this game. It's pretty much game set match. So the Niners, they play. They're like a fast break team. They're like, in a way, they're kind of like the Warriors in a way. They play that up and down the courts. Giving the ball to all sorts of different guys, giving the defense headaches about where you're going to go with it. Raphael 562 says, who's going to stop Kittle? And then he says Mitchell is going to average 7 yards per play. Yeah, dude. Like, I picked Debo and I picked the two linebackers, but I mean, you could pretty much pick anybody. It sucks that we're not going to have our two defensive linemen. I don't think we've played together as a unit since like week 1, maybe, when we were all together, week 2. And then it's been pretty much the Nick Bosa show.
I want to ask you a question.
Sure.
Because this has been something that's been, me and my relatives have been talking about, my relatives who are Niners fans, and we were talking about, was the DeForest Buckner move a mistake?
I think so. I think it was a huge mistake because if you look at it, they went into that pick thinking it was just going to be a swap for swap type thing. And rarely in the NFL do you pick a replacement and he is as good and as efficient as the guy that he was replacing. And then you look at the fact that he had all these red flags and they still
Yep.
drafted him. And Tristan Wirfs was right there. They could have had the tackle of the future.
That's what I was about to say.
That's the part that bothers me because the
That's
top
what I'm about
15
to say.
pick.
Yes.
Go ahead.
At first, I thought it was a mistake, right? Because I'm like, dude, DeForest Buckner's top 3 at his position, right? It's Aaron Donald, him, and Chris Jones. He's literally top 3 in his position. So he's worth that extra, $4 or $5 million. But in looking at it now, I don't think the move was the issue. I think the way what they did with that pick was the issue. Because, like you mentioned it, right? Let's say hypothetically you got rid of Buckner. Eric Armstead, he isn't bad, but he isn't $80 million good. But let's say you drafted, hypothetically, right? A Tristan Wirfs, who's an all-pro, pro bowler. We wouldn't have issues. Or let's say you drafted Justin Jefferson, for example, right? Just not hypothetical, right? You drafted Ayuk later on. Let's say you drafted Justin Jefferson, and Justin Jefferson, now would he have the same career with the Niners and Jimmy Garoppolo? Who knows? But let's say you drafted Justin Jefferson and he's as good and has, top 5 receiver, top 10 receiver. I mean, I don't really think we would be, really complaining about this pick. But the way that the Niners, used that pick in drafting Kinlaw, who had the injuries, pre-draft, knee concerns, pre-draft, had the red flags, and then you expected him to come in right away and replace Buckner's productivity, that was the issue with the move. I obviously probably wouldn't mind giving Buckner those extra $1 million because, like I said, he's top 3 in the position.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't replicate what Buckner can do.
Nope.
He's literally top 3. It's him, Donald, and Chris Jones. And you could argue he's better than Chris Jones. Now, I don't really, watch the Chiefs a lot, so I don't really.
Chris Jones is a pretty good disruptor of things.
He is pretty good, right? So it's literally those 3 are in the top 3. Eric Armstead, he really isn't, top 3 or, he's overpaid. He had obviously that great playoff run, but he obviously isn't great. But I really don't think it was the move necessarily. I just think what they did with that move was the issue. Because like I said, if they went and got Tristan Wirfs, left tackle or tackle of the future, and he was Pro Bowler and he was dominating with the Niners, I don't really think the Niners fans would have an issue with it because you got a good player for a good player. Kind of like the Stephon Diggs trade, right? You lost Stephon Diggs, but then you got Justin Jefferson. Even though they play the same position, but they both are really, really good. Like, they're both are really damn good. So it didn't really matter because both trades kind of balanced each other out. Where with this trade, I mean, you tried to replicate the same success. I understand the ideology behind it, but it just didn't work out for the Niners. And the red flags kind of did come true with the knee issues and the injuries, and it just hasn't worked out for Kinlaw.
No, it definitely hasn't. I was going to bring up a couple of players that the Chargers will have out. So the Chargers will be they will be without wide receiver Keenan Allen, wide receiver Mike Williams, kicker Dustin Hopkins, hamstring, linebacker Chris Rumpf. I wonder if he's related to Mike Rumpf. And offensive lineman Trey Pipkins. I don't know who Brendan James is, but I guess they're both offensive linemen. But yeah, I mean they're pretty banged up. I think who said it in the chat here? Let me go roll up here. I think it might have been David McNew. He said Chargers are taking their spot as the mash unit of the NFL. They'll be without Joey Bosa, J.C. Jackson, Mike Williams. Yeah. Again, you look at that and you're like, dude, the Niners can't drop this game. They're facing a team is as worse, or if not, who's the same, or if not worse, as far as injuries go. So this is a game that the 49ers are favored in, I think, by 7 points. And it would be a huge letdown and disappointment if they didn't come out with the victory.
The Chargers, you could argue, are the Niners of the AFC.
They're definitely the Niners of the AFC. And I keep calling them the San Diego Chargers, guys. They're the LA Chargers. Raphael 562, thank you for the $2 super. He says CMC versus Eckler, who gets the most yards overall? I think that comes down to whose defense tackles better, to be honest with you. I
Yeah.
hope it's CMC, but that like the Niners have been a little hit or miss on defense too. So, uh, Corey Davis, hello, 49ers for taking the mean the dream. What's going on, Corey? Thanks for coming in here. I appreciate it. David McNew says trade McGarbage. Unfortunately, we're past that point, but maybe in the offseason. I don't know if you've heard John Lynch singing the praises of Mike McGlinchey to the media. I just find it absolutely cliche, like business talk. If anybody who works for the corporate business, it's corporate talk. They're never going to tell you.
He's trying to sell Mike McGlinchey to other teams.
That's what, yeah. Dude's been absolute gutter trash, and he's like, well, not every play. I'm like, yeah, he's been pretty bad all the time. So I don't know, man. That's always insane when John Lynch comes on because John Lynch is never going to bury anybody on his roster. And sure enough, he comes on and he talks, the world of him. I forgot what I was going to ask you. Oh, so let's switch to Jimmy G and Kyle. I saw a video and a report that thinks that their relationship is getting better and that because of that, they're seeing a little bit better of Jimmy Garoppolo. How important do you think the Garoppolo, Shanahan, and the relationship is? Because a lot of people have said that one of the biggest issues Kyle Shanahan has is he's not an empowerer of his quarterbacks, whether it's Trey Lance, whether it's Jimmy. And then you look at certain other teams where, or even when Harbaugh was here, he would hype up, average Alex Smith and make him feel like $1 million. How important do you think that relationship is? And do you think it's getting better, or is it just, I don't know how somebody in the media can kind of make that, statement, but apparently that's what it looks like. So, what do you think about that whole situation?
I don't know if it's getting better. I can't really comment on that because I don't know what goes on inside the building. Now, obviously,
Right.
has the play been better lately? And has it been more consistent offensively? Has it been better? Yeah, I definitely could say that, but I really don't know what's going on inside the building. So I honestly don't know if it's getting better or the play call is just getting better or their relationship is getting better. Like, I can't really comment on that because I'm not there. I don't really have too much insight on that. But what I will say is that it's obviously important to have a good quarterback and head coach relationship. And it's easier to win football games when when you see eye to eye with your quarterback and when you have a good relationship with your head coach. It's obviously easier to win football games. So it's obviously an important relationship when you and your head coach, you and your quarterback see eye to eye. And it is I definitely do agree with what people do say about Shanahan when it comes to his quarterbacks because it does feel like sometimes Kyle Shanahan doesn't trust his quarterbacks as much. When you look at, the Andy Reids of the world and, certain other teams, they look like they trust their quarterback more. They look like they let him do whatever, let him
McDermott.
run the offense, right? McDermott or Andy Reid, let him run the offense, let him do his thing. Whereas Shanahan, it might look like Shanahan sometimes does control or have more control or is more conservative with Jimmy G or more conservative with Trey Lance and doesn't fully trust him with all the keys to the offense or just doesn't fully trust him. So I definitely do agree with that. But like to answer your initial question about if it's getting better or not, I honestly don't know. But I think it obviously is important, but at the end of the day, if Shanahan just has good play calls and the play calls, he's sending in good play calls and the offense is able to execute it and Jimmy's able to execute it, at the end of the day, like, it doesn't matter, right? Because like if he's able to execute, Shanahan's able to have, giving Jimmy good play calls, that's really all that matters. Because if that's happening on the football field, that obviously equates to, hopefully moving the ball downfield, putting up points. So what's I think more important is obviously the play calling and if the offense can execute that play call.
I think a lot of people, when they say, yeah, we'll bring in Brady, we'll bring in Rodgers, both of those guys have massive egos. And Kyle Shanahan's ego is big, if not bigger than both of them. So when you say it like it's something of a foregone conclusion, you got to think again, would Kyle be able to relinquish power and decision making to a veteran quarterback? Or does he
No.
always want some schlump behind center who doesn't have a ton of experience or is erratic or is young? That's the one thing about Kyle that, when people say fire Kyle or Kyle's overrated, I don't think Kyle is necessarily overrated. I think Kyle Shanahan has still not grown in maturity to what he can be as an NFL head coach. There's still a level of ego and arrogance that has prohibited him from taking that next step. Like I was talking to you, whoever I was doing the chat with. You ever listen to him in chats or in interviews when he does that, like that, like arrogant little cough laugh that he does when like
Sitting like this
somebody,
press conferences, like,
yeah, and he was
ha,
like,
yeah.
and I hate it because he thinks he knows better than which most of the time he does. But yeah, Kyle drives me absolutely up the wall. Brian Culp even agrees. He says, I don't think Kyle would let any QB
Yeah.
run freely. No,
And,
he
and, and
wouldn't.
that's and that's the thing. If you bring in Brady or Rogers, like, how can you tell like Tom Brady, tell Tom Brady to do certain things or boss Tom Brady around? Like, you
Not
can't
happening.
boss Tom Brady's around. Tom Brady's arguably the GOAT. Like, he's the GOAT. Like, you can't tell the GOAT, boss him around as if he was like Trey Lance or a rookie or Kirk Cousins, for example. Like, you can say certain things to Kirk Cousins, but to say, boss Brady around and tell him, speak your mind of Brady, I don't know if you could do that. Kyle let Matt Ryan. Someone's right. Kyle let Matt Ryan let it rip.
Yeah, well, they had freaking Julio in his prime.
Julio
Yeah,
Jones in his prime.
they had
Sanu
two
was
really good running backs.
serviceable. Yeah, Devontae Foreman, who had a career year.
Yeah,
They had some weapons.
you had what's his name too, who's on the practice squad right now, the running back, uh,
Tevin Coleman.
Tevin Coleman. Yeah, they had a really good offense. They had really good players. So, and they were a downfield passing team. Kyle to me just it doesn't seem like the type of guy that he'll ever truly give it up. And I understand why he doesn't completely trust Jimmy because Jimmy's shown us a million times why Jimmy shouldn't be trusted.
I agree on the Jimmy part. See, that's the thing about Kyle though. Kyle's an X's and O's guy, right?
Yeah,
Play calls, X's, designing plays, just X's and O's. That's his like thing, right? And that's why primarily the Niners hired him, right? Because the offensive mind, obviously, offensive genius, Kyle Shanahan, coming off the year with the Falcons. But Kyle, I like obviously the arrogant thing. That's something about Kyle. And that's the thing. There's coaches like Kyle Shanahan, right? X's and O's, scheme, different things like that. And then there's like your coaches like Robert Salas or your coaches like, Dan Campbell, for example, right? Who's a leader of men. When you speak, he inspires a whole room. Like there's coaches like that aren't the smartest guys, X's and O's wise, or,
yes,
right? But you could tell they have respect to the locker room. Their players will run through a brick wall for them. And I mean, look at those teams right now, right? The Jets are what, 6-2, 6-3, just beat the Bills. And I mean, even with the Lions, obviously they're struggling now. But I mean, last year they were competitive in every single game. Like they were literally down there, down to the wire, and they would come up short. But you could tell watching even Hard Knocks and just watching Dan Campbell press conferences, like you could tell he has respect of his players. You could tell he's a leader. You could tell, Dan Campbell leadership wise and just having the respect of his players. Dan Campbell has that. And he's just a born true leader, and players are willing to run for a brick wall for him. And Kyle, obviously, I wouldn't say Kyle's not a leader, but Kyle is more of an X's and O's guy.
see, Bill Walsh was a quiet guy to an extent, but he was so schematically ahead of everybody
Yeah.
that even if he wasn't a rah-rah guy, he was so smart and so cerebral that as a player, I don't know if I would necessarily respond to somebody screaming at me. Me and my brother talk about this all the time about how we miss coaches that would get after players like Parcells or Jim Mora Sr., where they'll just rip players in a press conference and be like, yeah, they suck. They totally were horrible. You can't do that nowadays because guys will shut down on you. Frank Tom Ocean says that Kyle's a terrible public speaker. He says I'm way too much. Yeah, Kyle, to me, when I listen to him in press conferences, is absolutely insufferable. I cannot deal with it. Between that and the arrogant laugh that he does when he thinks he's better than you and he's outsmarting, like, say, a
And
Grant
even
Cohn,
like
I
and like
hate that.
even, yeah, and that's the thing, right? Even like Kyle in like press conferences, like when Lance got hurt, or when like when the team doesn't have a good game, he's like, "Well, we did this when I did this right," and this person, or that like I think Grant asked him about the Trey Lance play, like, "Do you think you should have ran Trey Lance on a third and or second and whatever?" He's like, "We like that play. We're confident in that play call." Like Kyle, like I don't know the last time I really heard Kyle Shanahan hold accountability in press conferences when things aren't going right. There's certain coaches, right? And there's even players, right? Like, obviously, players do that, but there's certain coaches where they'll hold accountability. And I think, obviously, Kyle Shanahan holds himself accountable. But in press conferences, he's all like, he's deflecting it. He's all like, I did this right. I did that right. This person didn't do that right. Offense wasn't doing their job. I did this right and I did that right. And I was right. Like, Kyle, like, take some accountability sometimes. Hold yourself accountable. Like, if you messed up, don't be afraid to be like, you know what? I messed up and I have to look at the tape and I have to look at the film and see what I can do better next week. But I don't know if Kyle, obviously, I think Kyle obviously looks at the film and, tries to look at what he can improve on. But Kyle doesn't really show emotionally or show in press conferences the accountability.
Eric Dane made a good point. He says, I've never heard any players speak badly about Kyle as a leader. In fact, the players shown they like to play for. Yeah, Eric, I think it more or less is Kyle is. Eric, I think the players nowadays just don't respond to being either showing up by their coach in the media or being screamed at. It's a different generation, and I'm not crapping on this generation. I do plenty of that. I just think nowadays it's more or less the if you can relate to players. I mean, Kyle's pretty hip. Kyle reminds me a lot of myself by the way he dresses, the music he listens to or listened to as a youth. My generation, I kind of get along a lot with this generation because I'm kind of in that, I don't know. Some people are just they're able to get it. Whereas you get like these old men coaches that are completely just from another century. So I think more or less it comes down to the fact that players don't really respond. They actually respond to coaches that maybe will challenge them. Kyle's very honest behind the scenes with players. I don't know if you've ever picked up on that, but he'll tell somebody that they did bad. And he'll challenge him in front of the team. He won't do it in the media. So let's see what Eric has to say here. I like this guy. It says Kyle drafted Jimmy's replacement and he still came back. Kerry Hyder left and came back. Joe Staley kept his retirement a secret so they could get Trent Williams. It's true. You're right. No, I just think when it comes to big time quarterbacks, I just don't think his ego would allow. He does have a huge ego, but you're right. Players do play for him. He's still, until he wins that Super Bowl, he's going to always have a little bit of that Andy Reid kind of thing floating over him where he can't get it done when it means the most or his team's choke.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. And I mean, even Andy Reid got lucky that he had, not lucky, but he had Patrick Mahomes, right?
Yeah.
Patrick Mahomes, I mean, to, be down 10 and put up 21 unanswered points in the fourth quarter.
But we all saw that coming, though. I mean, like the Niners they didn't put them away.
We did put them away. And that's the thing. Like, no, so I remember watching that Tampa Bay Super Bowl, and I'm like, why the hell couldn't the Chiefs' offensive line be depleted when we were playing them?
Of course not.
Right? But all I was thinking was, look at this Tampa Bay team offensively in that Super Bowl. Tampa Bay put the game out of reach.
Yes.
The Kansas City was in the red zone numerous times, but couldn't score. And even if they scored on 3 out of 4 or 2 out of 4, the Tampa Bay's offense was still putting up enough points that the game was out of reach, and they just couldn't do nothing offensively, and it would be really hard to come back, put up 34, whatever Tampa Bay put up. With the Niners, that game defensively were controlling, and obviously we could talk about who to blame in that collapse and whatever, but offensively, we didn't put up enough points, like 10 points for Patrick Mahomes. Like, Patrick Mahomes came down 17 points in the first quarter in the AFC divisional game against the Texans, and they blew out the Texans.
Yeah, I remember watching that game, and I'm like, there's no way that they're keeping this lead.
Yeah.
And sure enough, the Chiefs freaking...
And the Chiefs came back like
they
this.
They boat raced them. Yeah. Oh, it was so easy.
It was easy. It was not like even difficult. Like, if you, like... And that's the thing about the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes. Like, if you look at other teams and you're down 17, you're like, oh, no, like, what's going to happen? If I'm a Chiefs fan, I'm like, dude, we still got a chance. Like, I'm not even worried down 17. Like, I think we have a good chance.
Eric Dane, he says, I think we're missing the target here. Kyle's problems are taking too many risks on players with injury history. Agreed. 100% on that. And not taking enough risk in play calling and building a team that can come back and win. Yeah, he's still young, Eric. He's only, I'm 42 going on 43. We have the same birthday. We were born the same year. I turned 43 in December 14th. So his coaching career is still far from being written. you're right. The Niners a little bit have moved away from some of these injured players and injury-prone players, but they still have enough on their roster where it's an issue. So, yeah, I hope, you know, like I'm just right now with this year, I'm in a state of hope, but I really, in my mind, I'm thinking things could go one way or the other. It is 100% fair to say the Niners could completely screw the pooch and come up short, and it's 100% to the other way, saying that the Niners could completely make a run and smash the rest of the league and get into the playoffs with maybe the 3rd seed or something. Who knows? It all depends.
That's the thing about this team. I mean, talent-wise, we're up there.
We have enough talent on
we have enough
offense
talent
to
exactly.
compensate for whatever we're missing on defense.
Yeah,
that's actually one of our last couple topics. How would you approach this game offensively? Do you open it up and get everybody involved and try to put a lot of points on the board? Or are we playing the same old conservative 5 yards in a cloud of dust, ball control, boring, a dink and dunk offense? Because we can kind of do both as long as everybody stays healthy. How do you think the Niners are approaching this game against the Chargers?
Dink and dunk, running the football a lot, dink and dunk, 5-yard pass here, Jimmy Garoppolo check down there, screen pass here to Debo. I think we will see 1 or 2 deep shots like we have seen, before the bye week, 1 or 2 deep shots. Hopefully this time it's to Danny Gray instead of Ray McLeod. So hopefully that's something we might see. But I definitely expect 1 or 2 deep passes. But outside of that, I don't really expect this offense to change. I mean, Jimmy, he's not super consistent with the deep ball. And I mean, how many quarterbacks really are?
He even said that his arm is not quite what it was.
Yeah.
Strength-wise. And he never had a ton of strength.
Yeah. Obviously with the shoulder injury. But I expect the Niners to do what they usually do, right? Try to get off to a fast start. Get Jimmy either run the football really, really well or have Jimmy throw a couple of slants here and there. Like you look at the Monday Night Football game against the Rams this year. Little screen pass to Juwan Jennings here, or not to Deebo Samuel here. Quick slant to Juwan Jennings. Like just little quick passes, 5-yard, 6-yard gains. And you're just moving up the field slowly with like a 10, 12 play drive where you're putting up points. So that's what I expect from this game in specific. But going back a little bit, what we were talking about a little bit earlier, if you don't mind. But
yeah, go ahead.
This team is super talented, and obviously this offense is great,
especially offensively.
Yeah, offense is like the weapons that this offense has. But still, the issue is still number 1, obviously Jimmy Garoppolo and his inconsistencies, and number 2, this team with the injuries. Like this team deals with injuries constantly.
It's so hard to really get attached to anybody.
Exactly, right? And that's the thing. Yes, does this team have the talent to make a deep playoff run and potentially make it to the Super Bowl? Yes. The 2 question marks is obviously Jimmy Garoppolo and the inconsistencies, and then the injuries. It's the injuries that you have with either defensive guys or offensive guys. Like Deebo Samuel, obviously, he got hurt for a week. Who knows if that injury lingers or if he gets hurt again or if CMC gets hurt again. Like, the injuries have been such a huge part. Like, it's hard to overcome those injuries when you don't have an elite quarterback. It's really hard to overcome those injuries. And obviously, we haven't had an injury, obviously going into the bye. And obviously, we haven't had any injury reports after that Rams game, which was great. But when you're the Niners and you deal with injuries really on a consistent basis, especially with key guys, right? Game to game, key guys getting hurt. Like, can the Niners overcome that? And right now, it's obviously defensive guys, but what if the use of CMC, getting him the ball so much he gets hurt hypothetically, or Deebo Samuel gets hurt? Like, what's gonna happen then?
Believe me, I've thought about every single one of those scenarios, and they scare the hell out of me.
Can you overcome that?
They can overcome things to a certain degree, but I mean, I think they would be emotionally shot if they lost a guy like Christian McCaffrey. Talk about losing Barrett on defense.
That would be brutal.
Just want to say what's up to Rich from Krauts Chronicles. What is up, my dude?
What? Yee. No, I was about to say Jay in the base catchphrase. I was about to be like, "What's good?" But then I was like, "Never mind." That's
you got to go yee.
Yeah, he goes yee.
Yeah, Rich is a good dude. Like Rich, good guy. What was I going to say? The thing too with a lot of people compare, like, if Andy Reid, if Kyle Shanahan in the same position, if he had Andy Reid's Eagles team, I think Kyle would have done about the same. I just say they were never the best team. They were never the best team. The Eagles. There was always a team that was better than them. And I think with the Niners in the Super Bowl against the Chiefs, I think the Niners as a season had a better season than the Chiefs. But I just thought the Chiefs were the better team. They had the better quarterback. They had the better skill position players on offense. The Niners defense is really good, but the Niners defense played really well in that game, but the offense didn't really help them out in the second half. So we always talk about complementary football with the 49ers, and that's what they need to play. That Rams game was the perfect example of exactly how the 49ers do well is when they actually score some damn touchdowns and allow their pass rush to eat.
Second half. Phenomenal.
Brian Kolb says Niners can definitely make the third seed. They could. That's what I'm saying, Brian. I have this one side of my brain that's like, we're going to get the first half inconsistent team, and then there's another part of me that thinks that, I was on Wayne Breezy's channel. For all you guys that follow Wayne Breezy, both of me and him had the Niners going 8-1 in the second half. Breezy's like, "Are you willing to go undefeated?" I'm like, "Nah." I think we both picked Seattle. In Seattle is the game that we drop. Technically, I think we're probably going to lose 2. I want to say that's the most I'm willing to go, and it might be to the Miami Dolphins because that's my brother's squad. I know Corey Davis asked before if me and my brother were putting any bets on that game. No.
Are you gonna have him on the pod against the Dolphins?
No, he might. I don't know. I'll tell you this though, guys. Speaking of family and being on the pod. So my nephew the other day called me before my last stream on Monday, or my stream with Ted. Before I had my stream with Ted on Wednesday, he goes, "Guess where I'm at?" And I'm like, "Where are you at?" And he's like, "I'm at Best Buy. I'm buying a microphone and I'm going to get a camera and this and that." He's like, "So what do you stream with?" Because I think he's going to start streaming gaming on Twitch or something. He's like 27. He might start joining me on here or us on here. So be prepared, guys. I know I keep saying that, but he's hard to lock down, my nephew. We'll see.
Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed.
We're very similar in our approach to the 49ers. So if you guys think you're going to get some rah-rah guy coming on here and singing the praises, nah, we're exactly the same. We're very hard to impress. And even when we do good, we're always like, yeah, well, they still, it's one of those kind of situations because we've seen it all. The Niners would have to win a chip in my nephew's lifetime for that attitude ever to go away. And so,
hey, I feel it. I haven't won a chip, and all I've seen is 2 Super Bowl losses.
Yeah, so that's what my nephew's seen. Let's jump over to the OBJ rumor. I just saw something before we came on the show saying that OBJ is kind of waiting it out to see what teams and how teams how the records who's real, who's not. So, I mean, the Niners can listen. If they don't go after him, I'm cool. If they go after him and it doesn't cost them a lot, why not? Right? Do I think they need them? No. Do I think we could use them? Absolutely. And I know a lot of guys like Rohan and a lot of people think we could definitely use them. The question is he going to be okay being in a reduced role where he might get 4 or 5 looks a game and that's pretty much it? Yeah. Is he okay about being part of something and not the whole damn show?
Yeah.
The Niners do well in the next couple weeks and show that they're kind of elite or they've kind of upped their play. I could see OBJ. I wouldn't be against it. But at the same time, if it doesn't happen, it really doesn't. Listen, he's coming off of 2 straight injuries to the same knee. So we'll see. Brian Kolb says OBJ in a 1-year deal. Yeah, I mean, that's how you'd go. That's how you go with it. I couldn't see any other way. What do you think, Amin?
If you look at last year in OBJ, you look at his time on the Rams, right? Had a pretty good, playing time with the Rams. Had obviously saw more targets, more receptions, more touchdowns, more receiving yards. But last year, going into that Rams, he was wide receiver number 2 behind Cooper Kupp. And the Rams they're a pass first team. They don't run the football as much. They throw the football. Matthew Stafford throws 30, 40 times. So naturally, OBJ obviously being wide receiver number 2, he's getting more looks. If you bring him to the Niners on a 1-year deal, right, if the price is right, I wouldn't mind at all. it would be I would never say no to weapons. OBJ obviously is a great weapon to have on a 1-year deal at the right price, but you have to weigh out the pros and cons. Obviously, adding another weapon is great, but my question marks with OBJ is, number one, will he be happy, like you said, not getting as many targets, because the Niners, unlike the Rams, are a run first team. They run the football. Obviously with CMC, he's going to be getting the ball more. He's going to be seeing more targets, most likely than OBJ. Ayuk obviously is going to getting his targets. Debo's obviously be getting his targets. And that's the thing. We don't need OBJ, right? He's not a necessity. He's a luxury for the Niners. If you were to get OBJ, he would be a luxury. He would be your wide receiver number 3, and OBJ at wide receiver number 3 would be really darn good, right? Better than a lot of teams' wide receiver number 3. So he's a luxury. We don't need Odell Beckham Jr. But will he be happy with the role here? Because he's not going to be getting as many targets as he was getting with the Rams last year. And I don't really think he will. I mean, you look at the time with the Browns, and Baker Mayfield was missing him, and he was getting open, and he wasn't getting the ball. His dad posted a video of, all the times, OBJ was open, and he didn't like his time with Cleveland. So he's not going to be getting the ball as much. Will he be okay with that? Will he be, like you said, will he be okay with, being a part of the team and, being a part of the team's success? Unlike in the previous years where he was the superstar, he was the show, he was running the team, getting leading the team, and obviously leading the Giants in receiving yards and receptions. So will he be okay with just being a part of the team? Another issue I have with the OBJ is that it lessens targets for Brandon Ayuk. I feel like Brandon Ayuk was having so far emerging lately. Obviously, he's having
Right.
he was emerging, getting more targets, getting more touchdowns, seeing the ball more. You bring in a guy like OBJ, what does that do to Brandon Ayuk's targets and his productivity? Obviously in the second half of the season, if you were to sign him. So there obviously are some question marks with OBJ. It's obviously, I wouldn't mind getting OBJ at the right price. It obviously is a luxury for the 49ers. It's not a necessity by no stretch of the imagination. It's not a necessity. And 49ers throwback said he might be going to Dallas. That's a better spot for him, right? Dak Prescott throws the ball a lot. That's a better spot for him if he wants to, you know, see the ball more and see more targets and see more receptions. If he wants to come to the Niners, obviously that might be a better place to win and have a better chance at making it to the Super Bowl. But if he wants to, see a lot of targets and get a lot of touchdowns and do a lot of touchdown end zone dances and different things like that, Dallas or Buffalo might be the place for him.
Emiliano said if they get OBJ, they're basically decreasing a
Yeah.
leverage for Ayuk's contract at the contract table. His targets are already going to be eaten up by CMC. Yeah. It's weird, though. If this truly is a 1-year deal, it's not like they're giving up picks for him, guys. This is literally just like a waiver wire pickup, just like, oh, he's available. Yeah, if he's looking for multi-years, like
3 years, no.
yeah, let him go to Buffalo. They're really good. I wouldn't mind seeing them win if the Niners and the Dolphins aren't doing it this year, but their fans annoy the hell out of me being up in Rochester, New York. Bills fans are freaking insufferable. They talk a lot of mess for a team that's never won a Super Bowl, but we'll see, man. I guess we'll get down to the last bit, predictions for the Sunday game. I'll let you go first with the score prediction, and then I'll give you mine.
I think I had them losing this game against the Chargers. I think
Really?
I did. I think I did. When we did predictions before the bye week, I think I had them losing this game
Oh, God.
against the Chargers. I know, like, I get it. Like, we coming off a bye, it's been strong. But I don't know. I feel like this Niners team starts off slow. Jimmy doesn't have one of his great games, and we honestly could potentially lose this one. I'll go 24-17. I think the Chargers win it. Obviously I'm kind of feeling like the Niners might win, but I predicted a couple of weeks ago that the Chargers would win, and I'm gonna stick with that. I think the Chargers get the win against the Niners.
I think this Niners team comes out with their asses on fire. I think they start slow, but I'm in kind of a middle ground between Raphael and Brian Culp's score. I think it's at least a 10-point victory. The line on the game is 7 points, the betting line. So, and Brian Culp said it, the Chargers are tough. Now they're without a lot of guys. So the Niners, that's the part that gets me. If the Niners drop this game with all those players down, that's not good. It also
I mean,
would be a decent test. I mean, if the Niners can
yeah.
somehow pull this game out and play, effectively and look pretty good during the game, then it bodes well for the second half. Yeah, I'm going to go 27-17 Niners. Niners will come on in the late second quarter, third quarter to kind of put this thing out of reach.
I wouldn't be surprised if the Niners, blow this game, even though they are favored on paper. I mean, we've seen worse this year on Sunday Night Football against the Broncos. We've seen worse against against the Falcons. I mean, we've seen worser losses this year where the Niners are even more favored than they are this week to win, and they all the things were going right for the Niners, yet they still weren't able to win. So
I'm trying to be positive.
I know you're trying to be optimistic.
Believe
I
me, the
know.
negativity is brewing. OBJ will not be happy, says David McNew. Not enough targets for him with Kittle, Ayuk, Debo, and team, not to mention CMC. Yeah, that's the part. We don't need a diva on this team. If he comes in here with an attitude like, listen, I just want another chip. I want to help you guys win a chip.
That's fine.
But if he starts putting up demands with his freaking rickety knees, then he can kick rocks.
If you want 7, 8, 9 targets a game and you want the football and you want to, score touchdowns and put up 100-yard receiving games, then we don't really want you. Kind of like Antonio Brown, right? Antonio Brown pre-Raiders stuff, pre-Steelers stuff, that was a concern, right? Obviously he was linked to the Niners, and I wanted Antonio Brown. I was like, dude, Antonio Brown, if we got Antonio Brown, that would be great. But then you look at how that whole situation.
Oh man, I'm so glad we.
I'm so glad we did it. I'm so glad we did it. But you look at how the situation went down. It didn't end up well, and then obviously he played with Tampa, didn't get the ball, had his issues, and obviously Antonio Brown, obviously the issues after playing football. But if OBJ wants to just win, be a part of the team, help us win games, then that's fine. But if you want obviously a lot of targets and to be a superstar and have a big year, then I don't know. I don't know if really, it's in interest. It's in the best interest for obviously the Niners or in the best interest for OBJ.
I guess we'll see if the Niners actually go for it. 49ers Throwback says we haven't won a Sunday night game since 2020 against the Rams. Yeah, well, hopefully that changes because we really need that. He says the Niners are 3-4 on Sunday Night Football. Ugh. John Lynch not saying no. Yeah, there's Jay Glazer is the one that said that the Niners will definitely be in the mix. So we'll just have to wait and see. Like I said, it's not a necessity. We don't really need them. But we'll see. We'll wait and see on that one. But hey, listen, guys. Thanks for coming in and supporting the stream. A lot of activity in the stream tonight. So
definitely appreciate it.
We both appreciate that very, very much. Amin, it's been great as usual. Hopefully we come back next week and we're talking about a Niners victory as we go to play Arizona and Mexico. And this is it, man. It's put up or shut up time, man. It's the second half. Let's get this. Again, thanks for all the people that are in the chat that are always here supporting the stream. Thanks for retweeting. Thanks for sharing. Thanks for liking. It means a lot. Till next time, everyone, stay safe and healthy, and we'll see you guys later. Peace.